You're watching FRCD on CAN TV. Family Resource Center on Disabilities is the Region 1 Parent Training and Information Center of Illinois. You can reach us at 312-939-3513 and email us at info@frcd.org. We encourage you to visit our website at www.frcd.org and follow us on Twitter at FRCDPTI. Subscribe to our YouTube page at FRCD1231 and like us on Facebook. Family Resource Center on Disabilities is not a law firm or a legal service agency. Family Resource Center on Disabilities will not provide any type of services that may be construed as practicing law, including but not limited to giving legal advice, drafting legal documents, or representing families in any type of legal proceeding. Hello, and welcome to FRCD on CAN TV, where we discuss special education, parent advocacy, and resources for families of children with disabilities. My name is Paula Wills, and this is my co-host, Zubida Pasha.
Hi, Paula.
Hello, Zubida. Thank you. Today, we are talking about bullying. I think all of us are familiar with bullying. I know I was bullied. And I joke about it, but it is a huge problem that is growing across the country. I know in my generation we didn't give it a lot of attention. It just seemed a passage of a rite of passage for your child, in your childhood. Every kid got bullied. But today, there's definitely a greater attention paid to bullying just because of the ease of access of information, the harm that it causes children that grows into follows them well into adulthood, and just some of the coping mechanisms that have hit children today with how they're dealing with being bullied. So today, Zubida, our expert, is going to help us understand what do we mean when we're talking about bullying, particularly in education.
Okay, and just to clarify for those families who have children with disabilities, particularly, that's what we are going to kind of evolve the conversation.
Right.
So bullying and there are many kinds of bullying.
Okay.
Bullying is the act of someone who is coming with negative attentions to harm another party.
Okay.
It can be physical, emotional, sexual. Cyber is the very, very dangerous one in today's days, and with this millennia, the cyberbullying is a huge issue. The physical one, it's harmful. The emotional one, I would say, is also one of the really serious problems that we need to look into. The physical one can look into physicalities, pushing, shoving,
right,
pointing fingers, that type of things. The emotional can be underlining, gossiping, negative looks.
And you don't necessarily know that your child may be experiencing
These things.
this type of bullying as well. Sometimes with pushing and shoving, there may be a mark or something, but emotionally, your child could go to school every day, and you don't know that maybe he or she is being teased, ostracized, left out, a myriad of things, cyberbullied.
Cyberbullying can be looking like social media,
right,
things that are happening, especially with the youngsters. I would say I have a very large case this year, particularly of cyberbullying, where these children are teasing each other via social media. And it is leading to a bigger problem, which is discipline that we will kind of talk about.
We're going to dig into that.
But I want to highlight conflict and bullying. There are two, there is a huge difference. Conflict, if there is an argument, the two parties are not coming to an agreement and they are pulling the rope away from each other. But bullying, it is not one party. It can be both parties participating in the bullying. Those who have children with disabilities, be aware that your child with disability can be a bully, also can be bullied.
That's true.
So you have to look really very closely, because we parent, because again, I'm a parent of now soon to be 18-year-old. She called herself, I am a young adult. We have discussed these things, and we also made sure that when talking to someone, you don't use the gestures, because pointing your finger at someone when you're talking, in her mind is a processing.
Right.
She's trying to connect the dot, and
So there's an issue of miscommunication between her and the other students.
Right, and sometimes with her pointing fingers, or just say wait with her finger pointed at the person,
It can be taken the wrong way.
They went and they said, oh, so and so is bullying me because she's pointing her finger to my face. Now, children, they can be close proximity to each other, and that can be perceived as bullying. So we have to really make sure that we have boundaries. For the sexual bullying, it's a boundary invasion, period, of the person's body. Now, if a person is standing here and the other person is just too close, and you keep saying, get away, literally that's sexual bullying, and that's not fun, and it can go even deeper to where there will be contact, physical contact, and that's harmful, and that scars the kids specifically, and even adults, and it has so many layers and side effects, and it causes trauma. So we don't want to kind of get into that, because it's serious and it's deep. Any kind of bullying, for that matter, it's serious, and it has to be handled properly, effectively, during the meetings. If there are bullying actions, and during the IEP meeting, make sure you have a safety plan for your child.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things I want to also talk about are the views that surround bullying. I think that's part of the issue, because when growing up, I know with growing up with me, oh yeah, I got bullied, and life goes on. No one really takes it seriously. So can we talk about like some of the views that come, some of the myths of bullying?
Bullying unfortunately does not have a solid law to protect the bully and safeguard the bullied, and safeguard the bully by providing the support or therapy or whatever they need, so they would not, do those actions of bullying. So the myth of bullying, there are a lot of them.
Yeah, like I know, for example, one of the myths is like, this just happens, it'll be okay, you'll forget all about it. But I know how many adults out there still remember, being, again, ostracized, left out, made fun of because you're different. The inner conflict that you have to, keep inside simply because you don't want to be bullied. You don't want to be made fun of.
I don't mean to interrupt you. It's kind of a way masking those feelings, which it should not. We have to help the youth or whoever is experiencing those things to come up and say, this is happening. So there are myths, but in the other hand, it should be action to be taken and a plan to be put in place to safeguard, again, the bully and the bullied. Because sometimes the bully, specifically for those who have disabilities, they cannot differentiate and discriminate. I'm bullying somebody. Sometimes children who have autism, and they try to socialize, and they come with all of their full body and invade somebody else's space, it can be perceived as bullying.
That's true.
But the intention of that young man or that young woman, they just want to socialize, but they just did not know how to express it. And touching and tapping, and some of them with the sensory, they have heavy-handed, and you will think they are beating you, but they're just trying to get your attention.
Yeah, and that's probably when it's really important that the IEP team understands the behaviors of that student.
Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe there needs to be an intervention plan.
Yep.
For the student who may be struggling with interacting socially. But also the other concern about bullying is the student who that may be what's the word I'm looking for? They may identify with that, identify that student and may have that student involved in maybe illegal activity. Maybe their lives are threatened. Bullying can look a lot of ways. It's not simply a bunch of kids standing in a circle getting pushed. Although it can be that. It can escalate to some various serious issues. So it's very important that parents are, you're keeping contact with your child and understanding what's going on with at the school to stay as involved as possible, because some things, it's embarrassing, you know, when you're violated, when your feelings are hurt, or just a number of things. For, as you said, most of the population has been bullied in some way.
But still, in that regard, Paula, parents who have children, and specifically for those who have children with disabilities, if they see any change in behavior, in demeanor, and in their not being themselves.
Right.
We parents are the expert on our children. We know the ins and outs of our children's behavior practically every day. So if you see something new in your child, ask, probe.
Maybe they don't want to go to school.
They don't want to go to school. School refusal, work refusal. We have gotten calls at the center where the kids was refusing to work because he got a bad grade and he was intimidated in front of his peers. Teachers gave, the grades or gave the paper back and say, okay, get your F or get your D. And they said, I'm not going back to school. I'm not doing the work because I just get D's. So what's the point? And I was digging deeper to find out that this teacher's method is a reverse psychology, which it did not work. Okay. It was perceived as bullying. So you have to kind of weigh the conversation from both ends. Right. We don't have to go and storm at the school and say, you're bullying my child, but listen.
Yeah, how dare you say this to my kid?
Listen, and like you said earlier, communicating effectively is key in every aspect. Is key. Fact and fact gathering, that's what you need to look into. Data and facts gathering. Sometimes we personalize the conversation when it comes to bullying and we bring other factors and other variables, but it won't work. It will not work. If it is a bullying act that is happening because my child have a disability, cannot discriminate, this and that, then we are talking about behavioral challenges and behavior intervention plan, and make sure that that act, which is /behavior/bullying act, what's the function of it? What the child is trying to tell us, or the student, right?
Absolutely.
Then we have to also be aware as parent in those instances, even though they are looking as bullying acts from a child who have a disability, if they are extreme, then they will cause disciplinary actions. And the extreme cases are if they are taking drugs and threatening a kid, take this drug, I want you to try it. That's
right.
That's discipline.
Oh yeah. Or
that's removal. That's expulsion.
Yeah, or as you said, if they have a weapon.
Yep.
And is this bullying happening at school, or is it happening after school?
Or a bullying through a physical action.
Right.
That's aggression. That's a physical action. So that's bodily harm. That's, again, a disciplinary action that can happen. So if you see something, as we say, if you see something, say something.
Absolutely.
Communicate effectively, gather the data. If you see a change in behavior, emotions, or sometimes the kids just shut down. They don't want to engage. And you know your kid, he is a butterfly, he's just talking and bubbly, and all of a sudden they are shutting down for 2 weeks. Something is wrong.
No, absolutely. And as I said, like we've kind of talked about this, what parents can do if they suspect their child is a victim of bullying or a bully. But I also want to talk about encourage self-advocacy. One of the things, you're not always going to be with your child. So in all situations, whether it's on the playground, whether it's in maybe a transition work program or a internship, in the classroom, at the library, wherever. You can't be there 100% of the time. So what is a plan that you and your child can develop if they find themselves in a situation where they sense they are being bullied or treated unfairly by their peers? Are there any particular laws that are protecting your child? Like, for example, if they're in their job training or apprenticeship or whatever, job accommodations. Does your child understand that they may need accommodations? Are they receiving those accommodations? Is their supervisor yelling at them, or maybe giving them low marks, based off of something that's out of the child's control, and maybe they haven't received their accommodations, and that may be why they can't perform. How are they being treated by their peers? Is there anyone that the student can identify and talk to about the treatment from the other peers, or the harassment or bullying from other peers? So those are a couple of things. Zabita, did you have any ways you can self-advocate?
You had highlighted the most important thing, which is the self-advocacy, and make sure that the youth or the person is in tune to their accommodation. And the starting point is to make sure that they identify themselves as people or person with disability. And also, if you have a chance, you all the time sit with your child and say, look, these are your accommodations that you need to receive. Did you receive this? Just as simple as during the tests in the classroom. Did you get more time than the other kids? Just a simple question to see and to reaffirm that the child is understanding of that accommodation. On the job or in the workforce, definitely you have to have an action plan. And there are policies, of course, surrounding those environments, whether it is an apprenticeship, if it is a mentorship, whatever the program is. Make sure you understand the layout of the land by requesting to see the policies.
Absolutely.
And if
every school should have some kind of bullying policy as well. That is something you want to take a look at. In general, you should look at your school's you should have access to your school's policy. If you don't have it, request it.
And if there is something out of the ordinary that is not in the policy, ask question to the administrators. Let's say your child may have those sensory issues and may be heavy-handed.
Right.
And they be, putting their hands on a teacher or a peer or whatever, and it can be perceived hitting. But he's not hitting. He's just trying to get somebody's attention. If this happen, what are the safeguards for my child? He may not mean no harm, and it may happen, but I'm just giving you the heads up. What will happen? What would you do? So there are two ways and there are two folds. There is a special education support,
right,
and services that can address this by accommodations and providing the behavior intervention support, positive reinforcement, replacing those behaviors with the desirable behaviors as we will perceive it as behavior, which is, it may not be behavior, that's just the nature of the disability and the impact of the disability, but it should be addressed. There is the other fold, which is administrative fold, the guidelines within that school environment. Within that school environment, you also have to consider the culture of the school. Are they in tune and they aware, fully aware of that aspect of the disability? Some schools, they are well versed in all disabilities. Some schools, they are really in depth into the intellectual and developmental disability. Some schools, they just we don't know nothing about it. Our population just may have 504s for ADD and ADHD. And I've seen, these aspects. However, schools should be in tune to a lot of things that they should know about all of these things. So you have to tackle it from different angles and make sure, again, document.
Absolutely.
That's our style as advocacy group. We have to keep it documented.
Yeah, as these bullying events happen, and they're not events, but if your child comes to you, you want to kind of keep a document of what's happening, who's involved, what was done, was there any follow-up. real quick, I want to talk about a website, the National Bullying Prevention Center. Um, they can this website pretty much contains every tool you need to kind of understand bullying and how you can address it on a personal level, on a community level. And I am going to go to that right now. So right here you have the National Bullying Prevention Center. This is through PACER, based out of Minnesota. As you can see, they have a myriad of resources and videos. One I particularly like is what parents should know about bullying. Because, I mean, it can be a difficult topic to address with the school, with the students, because many times it's he said or she said. So, and it's an emotional situation, because I mean, we're talking about your child. Someone's hurting your kid. You're not going. This is not a fun conversation to have. So, I mean, one of the things: definition, impact, and roles. I mean, it goes through the definition of bullying, help your child identify bullying. So this is ways that you can have a conversation with your child. One of my favorites, and I'm going to go back, because I think this is probably one of the toughest things, is working with the school. So one of the things you have, meeting with the school staff, that gives you a step-by-step guide as to be ready to state a problem clearly. Have ideas for a solution. So this is, you're not going to really want to go in cold turkey when you're addressing the school. You kind of want to have a plan and, be able to keep to the facts. So I think this is really helpful for a family to read through. Beginning a meeting. Arrive early enough to sit where you will feel most comfortable and effective. Kind of like how we talk about the IEP meeting. Have during the meeting, identify and focus on your goal. Much, Zabita, right? Like the IEP meeting. So, I mean, you do have a list of goals. Ultimately, you want to find out who's hurting your child, why, or and vice versa. Who did my child hurt, why, and how can we resolve this? You want to listen and gather facts. And, and it doesn't necessarily hurt to, as you say, bring a support person. You want to ask questions. You want to definitely understand what your rights are. And, they have something here on written communication, making a plan. So, I mean, these are all, I think this is very helpful, but they also have, many more resources here. Questions, stats, facts. Because bullying generally you're not on the island when you're talking about bullying. So, I mean, this is something that you can get your community behind, maybe get your school board behind. So I definitely recommend checking out the National Bullying Prevention Center. So we're coming down to our last 20 seconds. Boy, does time fly, right?
It does. It does. And it's a very in-depth, complicated topic that may need more than the 25 minutes allotted in this session.
Right. So we may have to do a bullying 2 show. But I want to thank you, Zabita, again for co-hosting this with me. And thank you all for joining us. And you have a wonderful week.
Have a good evening.